Hello, bros. How are we doing today? Tonight? Today? Today, probably. Hey, can you look fresh? Do I? Thank you. Where Buka? I mean, somewhere. Probably sleeps on my bed right now. We're gonna be distributing WoW canisters to Magic the Gathering cards, of which I have singled out 41 cards to talk about, which if we go 41 times 5 minutes, then it's 2 times 5 minutes, it's 3 hours and 20 minutes. Very curated list. Well, how many cards in the set? Let's check. Scryfall. In boosters, 276 cards. Insane. Let's cut to like 5 cards and play Magica. No, brother. So, whoops. Give me a minute. LFG go, brothers. We're gonna start with white cardos. First one. Is Moonshaker Cavalry. It's a Crater Hoof Behemoth, except that it is in white. Let's read what the card does specifically. ETB, creatures you control gain flying and get +X, where X is the number of creatures you control. So it doesn't have haste, and it doesn't grant trample. So it actually is a little bit weaker than Crater Hoof, but it was requested by a viewer, user, subscriber Pike in the Discord, said that I should talk about Moonshaker Cavalry because of Pioneer Transmogrify shenanigans. So I have to say, I'm not sure how how are we transmogrifying into that, and how do we have like tokens in our deck to attack opponents for a large amount, but maybe there is some way. So I'll give it 2 out of 5 WoW canisters for the possibility of being cheated into play in some spots. Boros Convoke with Transmogrify Lul. What if you hit a Venerated Loxodon? Luca piles can reliably get this in creature decks. That's a nice use. Luca seems certainly like something you could pair Moonshaker Cavalry with. You play like creatures up to 3 mana, and then you can Luca your 3 drops into Moonshaker Cavalry and just kill on the spot. Thing is, you're likely gonna like Atraxa instead, probably, because that works when you don't have a white board other than this creature, right? That's just my guess. This is the alt art. Textless. It's actually really weird because it looks like it clearly has space on the card reserved for the text. But it has no text, so that's funny. Can persist it? Yeah, sure, but will you? So yeah, 2 out of 5, like minor cheating to play target. Next, Half-Flame Duelist. 2 mana free 1, instant and sorcery spells you control have lifelink, and instant 3 mana lightning bolt. It is awkward when adventure creatures are cheaper than their adventure parts. But maybe like a slight consideration for like the Boros Pia deck or whatnot. I would not be like too surprised to run this in my sideboard if I would want some life gain. Probably a Pioneer level card other than, you know, anything else. Which is going to be a story for most of the cards that I'm going to be talking about and glossing over in this review, but definitely much easier to attempt to make an impact on Pioneer than on Modernos. Pretty cool card. A little bit like it's more balanced for standard, so I'll give it 2 out of 5. A Tale for the Ages. This is a 1 white enchant as Hammond. Enchanted creatures you control get +2/+2. You can cast a creature side directly on these, right? Yes. You can just cast the 2 mana free 1 on turn 2. Nothing is stopping you. You could have done that with Bonecrusher Giant too, yeah. It's always possible. So A Tale for the Ages is a card that seems interesting, but I think is a giant. Well, giant. Not really all that giant, but I think it is a trap. If you're interested in playing with that card, think harder. It is really hard to produce a deck where you'd have many creatures and it's gonna be enchanting them, and you're also gonna be interested in an anthem effect. So it's probably a limited only effect with the rolls and these types of things. So I'm gonna give it 1 out of 5, and if you think this card is interesting, then you're just wrong. Werewolf's Bodyguard, 1 white creature, elf, fox, knight. Flash, Banisher Priest. Could Banisher Priest exile your own creatures? No, Banisher Priest was an opponent control, so I guess technically not in Banisher Priest, but yeah, you can exile any other target non-fox creature. I'll make a quick search for foxes in Magic the Gathering. Typeline fox. Sorted by price in tickets. There's no foxes in this game, so no reason to be afraid. No playable foxes. Although it would be funny if it was like instead of Mox Emerald, it would be Fox Emerald. Right? Yeah, mostly it says that you cannot target other Werefox bodyguards so that you don't destroy the game like we had with Hostage Taker, right? Where Hostage Taker got a day 1 errata because it was target creature or artifact, so 2 Hostage Takers just looped forever and froze the game. I guess Mutavault is actually a playable card, and people do play it in like mono white, which would be potentially a home for Werefox Bodyguard. That said, it seems pretty strong to me. Pretty good version of Banisher Priest being just full on flash. It's pretty based. It actually looped with itself if the board was empty. Yeah. Yeah. What's the Banisher Priest that people play? Brutal Cathar. So, you know. We play Brutal Cathar. You know, part of that is being a human, of course. Which is solid, but there's upsides and downsides to Werefox Bodyguard. Just having full on flash is pretty solid. One thing that strikes me as weird is that Werefox Bodyguard has the ability to sacrifice itself to gain 2 life, which is very much like a food activation in a food set, but Catherine and Skyclave do have comparative notable upsides. So those Werefox Bodyguards. So I'll give it 3 out of 5 war canisters for being a solid variation of that effect. Very well could see that being relevant. Certainly like a much better than Skyclave and Apparition and Brutal Cathar if you're playing against a deck with no removal. Or rather with no targets for it. The removal effect, and for example you play against blue-eyed control, you know, they can cast a sweeper, you can like hide your best creature with the Werefox Bodyguard or just flash it end of turn to have a 2/2. So this type of stuff. And we're done with white cards. Why does eating fox give less life than eating food? Exactly. Well, if you are in a restaurant in the US, you will frequently read in the menu that consuming raw or undercooked foods comes with health hazards, and you're doing it like at your own risk. And it is possible that the foods are normally cooked and the fox is not. So that is my theory, but it's just a theory. Elusive Otter is a blue mana prowess creature. Creatures with power less than Otter cannot block it, so you pump it pre-combat and you attack. And Green X Grove's Bounty. Distribute X counters among any number of target creatures you control. Cool. For modern, you know, 1 toughness equals unplayable. Ragavan made sure that only the best, you know, 1 toughness creatures can exist, or rather, Ragavan made sure that Orcish Bowmasters existed, and then Bowmasters Lava Darts. Remember Lava Dart, by the way? Ren 6. So, you know, we're not playing that in Modern. We might be playing this in Pioneer. In Pioneer, You do get access to 12 prowess 1 drops if you play blue-red exactly right now, which is a lot, which is a solid amount, which just means you can deploy a significant amount of those early and then play your spells, play your crews maybe. Blue-red prowess actually used to be a deck. Without iteration, it wasn't shining as much, but I think it could potentially be worth a revisit. Being a blue-green card is certainly an odd choice for the elusive otter. Certainly, like, you almost assuredly are only going to be playing this in blue-red, but you know, the green adventure is probably ignorable, but you can also just try to cast it with some off-color pathways or treasures or some sources of green mana that you can semi-incidentally put into your deck. Maybe there are ways, and in the late game, certainly it's nice for it to double as a spell. One more cool thing is that Elusive Otter is an otter, not a human, while both of the red prowess 1-drops are humans, which means that Of One Mind is like something that you could revisit with the otter in Pioneer. I think might be worth looking into. So it's gonna give it 3 out of 5 for being like a nice Pioneer monster. And we move to the next one, which is Quick Study, just an instant speed divination. I'm gonna be repeating myself from when I did the set review podcast with Gab yesterday, actually. But the nice thing about this card to me is that when you play against control in Pioneer, you have this play pattern like nearly burned into your mind. You you know not to play a valuable card on turn, like when they have 3 mana up, but then play it once they have 4 mana, put them in a tough spot with Memory Deluge, Wandering Emperor, and whatnot, right? And their Absorb, and they're not able to spend their 3 mana. Well, might not be the case anymore if Control decides to play Quick Study, because it certainly helps with that angle. Now you have an alternative play if somebody doesn't play into your Absorb, for example. So for that reason, might be worth looking into, and I would be actually interested in playing Quick Study in Control. I probably would just disregard Quick Study, but I remember that at various points, like I've talked with some Control players who were very happy about Thirst for Meaning in their deck, and they like even went through some minor awkwardness in their deck. I don't know if they played like Omen of the Sea or not to support it. Quite possibly. Just for that 3 mana alternative play to absorb reason, and also lets you hit your land drops and all that stuff. In Modern, of course, like there is like an infinite amount of cards that are just straight up better, so you know, you're just not gonna play a divination. Thirst for Meaning was actually decent THB eco standard, but just that. Well, it was also decent in some control decks in Pioneer. That was before Deluge, I think. No, it was after Deluge. And there is like a reason for a Quick Study to exist, so I'm gonna give it 3 out of WoW canisters. Like the pot has feet in the art, Yeah, it just does. Next card is Sleep Cursed Fairy, which is a blue mana, flying ward 2, 3/3. Both fairy and a wizard, so it turns on Flame of Honor. Wow. And they're stopped with 3 stun counters, and for 2 mana you can untap it. So let's go through the play pattern. If we play the Sleep Cursed Fairy normally, and we just wait for it to untap. We play it on turn 1. On turn 2, it doesn't untap. On turn 3, it doesn't untap. On turn 4, it doesn't untap. On turn 5, it untaps. Oi. Yeah. So that's not too hot. So I guess we pay 4 mana, then it's untapped twice. Why not 4 power and less stun counters? Sad face. Yes. What if you turn 2 Hex Mage attack, turn 3 with a 3/3? Good. Amulet combo attack? Yeah. What if you... Yeah, untapping doesn't untap it. Untap it just 3 stun counters, obviously. You can play Pessermite, which is also a fairy. Would be good. 4/2 with stab. Possibly. I think it would be beneficial for this card to have more power. Yes. But it doesn't. So probably sacks, actually. I'll give it 1 out of 5. After going through the lines of like how it actually goes, I'll just scapegoat it and give it 1 out of 5 for sacking. Sleight of hand. Look at the top 2 cards. Well, we know what Sleight of Hand does. It's a reprint. Is it based? Come on, give it 2. It's interesting design, sure. No, I have to hand out some ones. You don't get a 2 for being interesting. So Sleight of Hand, chat. Type 1 in the chat if you think that Phoenix is going to be the best deck in Pioneer after this set releases. I don't know if it's gonna be the best, but it's probably gonna be quite good. It will be Lotus because of all the Phoenix players. Well, I'll simply play 4 Ceremonious Rejection and die to Dromoka. The farmer was amazed to see the penny vanish into the thin air, but the goose knew he just slipped it to the fairy. Wow. The goose knew, yeah. I meant invasive surgery, not ceremonious rejection, actually. This thing the ice good versus Lotus. You keep it because of the Morka dangerousness, I think. And also it attacks for 7, so... Good? No, but... Yeah, is a card. It's also gonna be faster now. Everything's gonna be faster. The issue is gonna be discard outlets. Better than Shredder? It's close. I think they're pretty equal. especially given like the Morka thing. So sleight of hand, yeah, doesn't trigger shoulder too. Is this a reason enough to play Finally of Promise in Phoenix? No. It seems no, it's not. It's not. Like pieces of the puzzle is a better Finally of Promise. So you get 2 cards out of it. It doesn't require your graveyard to be active, and it does fuel your graveyard instead of feeding out of it. So maybe it's gonna be 12 cantrips in Phoenix. Maybe it's just gonna be 10, but I think it's likely that it's gonna be more than 8. So I give Sleight of Hand. Oh, it's good. 4 out of 5. It is the worst cantrip. Like, so it's clearly worse than Opt. You're playing it after Opts, and well, it's not clearly worse than Opt, but like overall, being an instant, being sorcery, this. This makes Invasive Surgery good. Yeah. Pog, more air in my Phoenix deck. Yeah, can't wait. So Opt and Consider are 5 out of 5. Yeah, sure. Spell Starter. 2 mana, Quench, plus an additional 1 for each fairy you control. So basically a mana leak. So we've been waiting for a mana leak in Pioneer. By we, I mean mostly Andre, who talks about mana leak in Pioneer at every single occasion. It's also a nice, clever reference to Spellsuiter Sprite, which is just kind of cute. And I mean, what are the fairy? Like, it probably sucks. We would need to like play Typeline, Fairy, Search. It's not like we play any fairies in Pioneer. There's Brazen Borrower, Fairy Mastermind. Okay, that's kinda it. Yeah, that's it. Sprite Dragon, Rankle and Torbran. Alright, so it's gonna give it 2 out of 5, and it's like for the future it might be relevant. Not yet. There is a Eldraine Set. Why call it Spellsetter if it doesn't even do what Spellsetter Sprite does? It's yeah, not that after all. A new scam combat trick. I have to say, it's just straight up better than the previous ones. There's some minimal downside, but really, you're gonna play this instead of Feign Death for sure. One thing I'm not really looking forward to is token auras, because given the propensity of people to not bring proper representation of cards, I'm waiting for the torn pieces of paper to like be put on the grief and says, yeah, that's my aura. So kinda not feeling too great about that. Also, the official ones are kinda ugly. That's how the official roll tokens look like. So they're like flip cards, they're like Erayo. Yeah, they did. Wait. Yeah, that is the wrong art. It's a wicked passive frog. On it, we just clearly cast, and then there is like a cauldron, a witch. Cast. What would you do if your opponent reached out to his pocket and pulled up a condom in a wrapper and told you it's a wick troll token? I would ask for something that's card shaped instead. Nintendo, I'm looking at the tokens you sent me and they're absolutely non-cringe. So yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to like put this over a card anyways. You're just like supposed to put your card so that it covers the bottom half. So you only see the wicked token enchantment aura roll, but I don't know. How do you normally put auras on your cards? Like I kinda... It's not that a half of the card sticks out, it's less. Alright, anyways. That's gonna be a little bit annoying, and it's gonna be annoying in the years to come, but let's give it 5 out of 5 because it's like makes the best deck even better in the format. So it's like the best card ever. Spiteful Hex Match. Why is this card here? Black mana 3/2. Create a Curse Troll attached to target creature you control. I think somebody asked for this card. Let me check. No, nobody asked. I was confused, I guess. Who will never amount to anything now, father? Why is father capitalized? Still has so much respect. Despite literally turning father into a frogster. Alright, so like it seems like a good one drop, but then actually it's never playable on turn 1, so I'll give it 1 out of 5 because I'm not sure how this ended in the review. I might have misread something. Would that actually turn Death Shadow into a 1/1? Death Shadow has an ability that gives it -X/-X, where X is your life total, right? So it would actually kill your Death Shadow. Yeah, you can put it on another card, but then like the entire thing of like being a black mana 3/2 is gone because you're already past that point. Experimental Confectioner. When ETBs create a food token, when you sacrifice a food, create a 1/1 black red creature token with this creature can't block. It combos with Peregrine Took. Which is nice. You need Peregrine Took, and you need 3 foods in play, and then you sacrifice 3 foods to draw a card with Peregrine Took. And then you make 3 rats, and each of those rats comes with an extra food because of Peregrine's passive ability. And then you continue and you can draw your deck and make a lot of rats. So You know, it's like a free drop number 10,000 in like shitty food combo decks. So for modern, let's say, I guess Peregrine Took is not nowhere, like it's just a modern card. So you know, Academy Manufactor, Chatterfang. We already have many more free drops than we needed, but I like those effects, and I like to play weak food combo decks sometimes. I do poorly with them. Game objects. I do poorly with them, but then it's still fun. I promise. So, you know, curse you for making Academy Manufactor free mana. Whoever did that. We could live in an alternate reality where game objects would be actually dominating. This being companyable, really a good thing. I think it's barely relevant. When you have a combo deck and you have free drops at combo, it does make sense. It's pretty nice to be a company hit, right? But so I'll give 2 out of 5 for about the guy. I know it's weak. I just like it, so I'll give it 2 out of 5. Also nice in a food deck. You will be playing that in a food deck, yeah. You will play food cards alongside the confectioner, I think. And alongside Peregrine Took. Ashiok, Wicked Manipulator. There was any mode, right? Wicked. So let me actually read Ashiok because I don't quite remember it. Why isn't it alphabetical? It's in... Yeah, I don't know. Wicked, that's how you say it? Wicked Manipulator. Wicked. This 5 out of 5. What is what is he tired of? Planeswalker? There's only one in the set. They're not tired, but there's gonna be only one in the set from now on. So +1 is sleight of hand, -2 it's like make a creature, -7 you exile their deck or most of it. But the important part is if you would pay live, you may instead pay with deck cards. So how do we pay live and exile our deck with this to Thassa's Oracle? Any live payments that are like uncapped, come to mind, chat. Anything. Fetchlands. Spellskite. Tanto Vanguard. Ad nauseam. Ad nauseam is not live payment. It's also a 5 mana card. You already cast a 5 mana card. Spellskite is nice. What we're looking for is like ideally an activated ability that is repeatable and you can just keep using it. So Spellskite is a great suggestion. Aetherflux Reservoir. Yeah, Doom Whisperer does exile your deck. It even does so twice as fast, but it is under 5 mana card, so it is not really an option. You can just activate Spellskite. Well, you don't need much for Spellskite to be activated. You can like play Ashok, +1 Ashok, and then you can activate Spellskite on that Ashok's ability as many times as you want to. So you all you need is a target spell or ability, so not much. Yawgmoth is a life payment, true. Well, Street Wave is not repeatable, bros. It just happens once. Also, if you can pay a lot of life, doesn't Ashok just win by itself? Well, not really. It's right target spellscard, you cannot activate it again. This is where you're wrong, my friend. All you need for Spellskite, to activate Spellskite, you need a spell or ability on the stack. What do you mean non-repeatable? I saw a dude cycle Street Wave twice in a row. Was it in his own end step too? Ideally, you could like pay life repeatably in Pioneer, so I'm mostly looking for Pioneer options to do that, to emulate Inverter, because it would be nice if your Inverter is like actually Planeswalker that, you know, +1 draw a card, -2 make a creature, solid abilities. Then upside, but nothing comes to mind. Seriously, how does it work with Bolas' Citadel if I want to play the top card of my library by paying life? Well, you begin to cast the card and you're paying life equal to its mana value as it's like entering the stack, and then you instead just exile the card to the top of your deck, but that card is not on the top of your deck anymore. So it just works normally. Pay 1 life. Cutthroat Container gets +1/+0. Activate only once each turn. Wow, what a card. Alright, I'll look for a way to pay life. Bond of Agony. Well, it's from Dissension, but yeah, it's interesting. It kills. For black mana. Beledra space 10 life. I mean, Adanta Vanguard is some shit cards territory. Beledras is a 7 mana dragon. The Black Defiler. Well, formats Pioneer, text, pay life. Unfortunately, when you do something like that, you don't even get to the cards that pay life. Yeah, Doom Whisper was mentioned, but we're looking for a cheap card that just lets you pay any amount of life. And and it's legal in Pioneer. And so far, Adanta Vanguard has been outlined as a card like that, although it is not perfect. But there might not be a better one. you have 10 life and Ashok, you cannot pay 50 life even with his passive. Sure. But if you have, you know, smaller increments, then it's fine. Alright, I'll give it like 2 out of 5 and say that it doesn't combo in Pioneer yet. But comment it will combo with Oracle as soon as an uncapped way to pay life enters Pioneer. You watched a no-ban Pioneer video. Inverter versus Uro. What was the no-ban Pioneer video? Uro Inverter versus Urocat combo. I mean, sure, just Inverter alone would be good enough. It would be nice if cool things would be allowed to exist, but unfortunately they don't. Don't always. Besiege the mirror, 1 black, bargain, search if bargained cast. If not, to hand. What do you think of this card? I think it's mostly irrelevant, except for like maybe the Legacy Storm situations, but even then, like, doesn't care to, I don't really care about that. And for like real formats, doesn't really do anything, right? I think the amount of hype that this gets is a little bit weird. I searched Diabolic to pull up Diabolic Tutor and look what I found. Another tutor. Diabolic Intent, remember that? But I also meant this, it's 4 mana, like, get a card, I guess. You can't cast Tybalt / Bulky. Just say tutor for combo decks like food. Yeah, black, kinda rough, and for the most part, in this day and age, you're better off playing the card itself than playing a tutor for it. Here you have to pay as little as sacrificing an object, so it could be easy, but it also could be a little bit of work. It's not like just always trivial to have an object. If you play Legacy, you can like have Vault of Whispers or whatnot. It's cool. 8 shoulders in Standard and Pioneer. No, it's not gonna be used like that. It's like a terrible use of a card like this. Better in Modern because they have Ring. I would argue that it's worse in Modern because they have Ring, so just play Ring instead. Notably, you cannot sacrifice creatures, so it has to be artifact, enchantment, or token, so it's not like always trivial to sacrifice something to it. In Legacy, specifically, the use I've heard is like using the Gay's Will, which is just Gaia's Yawgmoth's Will, but Gay's, and you can actually support it, and you can like Dark Ritual into that, and that kind of makes sense, but I think this card is a little bit shit, and like it's not gonna do really anything besides that. Cool card though. Next comes The End, which is a 4 mana Vraska's Contempt, which also cranially extracts everybody. And I'm kinda interested in using this card in Pioneer and exiling Monogreen's threats. Seems like a really good card to target Karn. Breaking a format equals 3 out of 5. It's not gonna break this one. It's like just a shitty storm card in a sea of shitty storm cards in Legacy. But it seems like pretty good to target Karn, the Great Creator, with the End, or Cavalier of Thorns. Looks still pretty pricey. It is a 4 mana card. But if your deck is interested in playing a longer game in Pioneer, then I think the End is kind of an excellent way to just tackle the mono green matchup. And as soon as you cast a single one, you get rid of Karns or Cavalier of Thorns or whatnot, then suddenly Storm the Festival is also much less of a problem than it used to be. Much less of a big deal. Interesting that it doesn't pick up others in play. There's not really a reason for it to pick up the other ones in play, so it doesn't. So I'm certainly looking forward to trying the End as a sideboard card in Pioneer. The cost reduction kind of a flavor text, not really gonna happen too often, but also one awkward thing is that it is not Giganta compatible, which a little small strike against it, so would be much more interested in playing the End if I was playing Sacrifice, like I guess in the sideboard against mono green, against the fairy control, against creativity, why not? All the funky like Atraxa decks or whatnot, if you exile Atraxa with it, it's also pretty good. So it's a little bit overcosted, but it seems like a pretty excellent sideboard card. I guess it's costed properly, it's just that you get like strong effects. But I think it's actually really good. Maybe I'll just give it a 4 because I like it a lot, and I think it's like gonna be a sideboard card, but a very fairly impactful one. And I just want to make a point giving it a higher rating than Besiege the Mirror. Come on, there's a full 5. No. Face Phoenix still playable. Phoenix is gonna be insane with sleight of hand. And next comes Fairy Dream Thief. Black mana, flying, ETB Surveil. 3 mana, exile from graveyard. You draw and you lose 1. Pretty neat 1-drop, right? Like a combination of nice things, so might be relevant probably in like when the types are relevant. So this is a fairy, a warlock. Would be like, I think, okay if it was a fairy rogue for maybe the occasional rogue deck that pops up, but I think that's all I have to say for this. Can I give it 2? It's probably like not immediately playable anywhere, but it's like you just need a 1 mana card. This is a pretty good one. Has value in the late game, has like relevance in the early game. If you just need a creature, that's a fairy in play. Easy to get into play and then not terrible to draw late. That's why this is not a fairy rogue, yeah. It's a bit sad. Charming Scoundrel is a card that was... Let's read it. 2 mana, 1/1 haste. Said ETB, create a treasure, discard draw, or create a wicked roll. Then I realized that Besiege makes 4 storm, so only if you own enough artifacts. Da Vinci, I just don't care. Simply own 5 artifacts and you go Besiege into Besiege into Besiege. That is insane. It's also Legacy. I don't care. Nothing is gonna beat Fossil Will Days in Legacy anyways. It's always gonna be the best deck. Always is, always has been, clearly. So you can like Besiege into whatever you want. This is like a standard card, right? Maybe standard 2-drop haste with Wicked Roll, and then you have like the flexibility of making a treasure if you have a strong 4-drop to ramp into. For like other formats, I'll give it 1 out of 5. This is a Wily Goblin, I guess, but just Wily Goblin was really safe in its time, and this is just much better, but also who cares? Somebody requested me to put it on the list of cast review. Yeah. Okay. Hearthstone Elemental, 6 mana Elemental, Stroke Genius, 1 red, discard hand, draw 2. Spell costs X less to cast, where X the number of cards in your graveyard that are instant, sorcery, or adventures. So what can we do with this? We can dredge, we can attack, we can hollow one. You know, hollow one is like not really great when you discard your hands to activate it. It costs 5 mana. Seems pretty doable to reduce it to a 4/5 or just red in some situations. Clearly, we are all still, and by all I mean me personally, still coping with the death of Faithless Looting. The green root walla is not legal in modern, you just play the red one. Discard Phoenix and Demi-Leech. Could discard like root wallas, Vengevines, draw a hollow one, or like play half elemental from your adventure zone. This type of stuff. It's all a little bit of a reach, because discard your hand is a pretty costly thing to do. But I'll give it 2 out of 5 because I think some potential is there. It's just gonna be hard to assemble and probably not gonna get there in the end. But you know, you can also show up and try to reanimate Vengevines, and then your opponent's gonna be playing a Duffy Voidwalker and you don't have a graveyard suddenly, you know. Just a bit too rough. Rotisserie Elemental. Red mana menace. When it deals combat damage, put a skewer counter on rotisserie elemental. Then you may sack it. If you do, exile the top X, where X the number of skewer counters. You may play those cards this turn. So you can attack with it and cycle it, or keep attacking with it and then cycle it for more cards. A little bit awkward that you get to play those cards this turn and it's post-combat. There you get to play those. So if you want to remove blockers to get through. Yeah, I was thinking of like the Pia deck, but it seems overall a bit too bad in that role. And like you typically want to do the work, give your creatures prowess, and then hit them. This kind of pulls in a different direction. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I'll give it 1 out of 5. Is Pima just better? No, it's not just better, but Touch the Tower. It's an upgrade to I need your help. Flame Blessed Bolt. Yes, Flame Blessed Bolt is the card I was thinking of. So Flame Blessed Bolt. Not really like an all-star, but sometimes you see that card. So it's a shock that exiles a Phoenix. And also you can bargain to deal 3 damage and scry 1. Which is roughly like kind of similar to Fiery Impulse. Power level, I think. Depends on like how important is hitting the free toughness. And if your deck can actually pay the bargain cost. Which if you play, you know, a deck with Fable of the Mirror Breaker, you will occasionally be able to sacrifice treasures, so I don't know, like good shock, 4 out of 5, boring. Boring, upgrade over Flame Blessed Bolt. Now, Kellan the Fey-Blooded. In lore, Kellan is the son of Oko, that's why he is a human fairy, because Oko is a fairy. A shapeshifter fairy. And seems like the mother was a human, which proves that it is lore accurate that Oko fucked. But it's also not a surprise because just look at him. When will Oko come back from buying cigarettes? Exactly. Or milk. Besides that, what does the card do? 3 mana 2/2 double strike. Other creatures you control get +1/+0 for each aura and equipment attached to Kellan the Fey-Blooded. Also once again, Oko is a shapeshifter, so he's certainly capable of adjusting anything to his needs. Two mana adventure, search for a aura or equipment. So how to say, I did play Pioneer Hammer. If you remember my Phyrexia, all will be one review. I was coping with Pioneer Hammer pretty hard. I think when I played Pioneer Hammer, I played Open the Armory and Fighter class, and this is just better. You get a creature that's a decent creature. That's double strike. So it actually just kills in one hit with hammer equipped, and it also has some like minimal extra upside if you attach anything to it. So yeah, I mean, Pioneer Hammer continues to be better. I think we still need a better equipper though. That was the thing that we needed. Just need a little bit more. But it's a step. So if Oko is a shapeshifter, then it means he shifted into the chattest possible human. No, I think you're projecting it. Like that's what you would do if you had shapeshifting powers, but it does not necessarily mean that that would what Oko would do. Maybe his motivations are different than yours. I think you need an alternative game plan and more ways to fetch hammer. No, you just need to like equip a little bit better, I think. I mean, alternative game plan also works. But I mean, if you need alternative game plan and more ways to fetch hammer, then Kellan is literally that. You can go Fable Chain. No, what's Fable Chain? Scaling Viper is a Idol of Great Revels with Petty Theft on it. I don't know what's a Fable Chain, but it sounds like a very strong thing. So yeah, sorcery Petty Theft is not as good as a non-sorcery speed Petty Theft, which is a little bit not nice. Są po to, ażeby zawstydzać. Let's make it a bit bigger because I can't see shit. Yeah, good. It's a bad Eidolon. Yes, sure. So, I mean, it's not too bad. It's also an elemental, so you can put it into your Risen Reef deck. For sure, it's gonna make sense. It's also a one-sided effect. It doesn't affect your own spells, just your opponent's. Bone Crush is a bad shock and a bad 3-drop and a great card overall. Yeah, exactly. I think this might be like a little bit too bad on both sides, but it's cheap on both sides. And it's a way to like put more spells into your deck. And it's also a 2-drop. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Bone Crusher isn't a bad 3-drop though. It's pretty bad. Bone Crusher also has the curve thing. True. Bone Crusher has the self-curve making thing where it can be literally like you can keep 6 lands and a Bone Crusher Giant and you have a reasonable pair of early turns. I'll give it 3 out of 5 maybe in Pioneer. Of course, 1 toughness. Don't even look at it for Modern. Probably a bit too high of a rate for it, but I like the Viper. Blossoming Tortugas. 4 mana. When enters or attacks, mill 3, then return a land from graveyard to battlefield tapped. Activate abilities of lands you control cost 1 less to activate, and land creatures you control get +1. Combos with Flare of the Hydra, Nykthos. I guess maybe you could play it in Pioneer Devotion. It's an even costed threat, which is nice. It has an ETB immediately. But if you're playing it in Pioneer, you are not guaranteed to be able to return a land with it, because you just mill 3 cards and a land has to be in your graveyard somehow. So if a land wasn't there to begin with, then you don't actually get to return anything. Automatically disqualified for Modern at least. Why? So I would not be surprised if this like shows up a little bit in mono green. Seems pretty decent there. Like has 2 devotion, but actually 3 because it makes Nykthos activate for 1 less mana. It dies to Fire Impulse, but with yeah, that's a bit bad. It's really much less sturdy than most mono green cards. And it's gonna break sometimes, so I'm gonna give it 3 out of 5. It also has a modern combo with Lava Claw Reaches, which is absolutely irrelevant. Very small booty for a turtle. Forgot hip thrusts. So yeah, with Lava Claw Reaches you get to pump it infinite power, wow. It does, yeah, it does hit the lands that Cavalier milled, but you need to play the Cavalier first. Also not a Kiora card. Yeah, it has many downsides, but maybe in some other shells, probably not. Probably not really in any other shells. Let's move on. Elvish Archivist. 1 green. Other shells because the turtle, yeah. Good one. Whenever 1 or more artifacts enter, put 2 counters, trigger only once each turn. Whenever 1 or more enchantments enter, draw a card, this triggers only once each turn. What a weird card. Gets 2 counters per any artifact and draws a card. Those are powerful effects. It does trigger only once each turn, which is cringe. And limits, you know, what you can do with it. And it has base 1 toughness. Play Urza Saga, draw a card, yeah. So you're supposed to do some like roll tokens and food tokens combination. And you just get powerful stuff out of it, but It's gonna be really hard for a deck to exist. And just again, in modern, just so hard for a new card to be playable. Can you make enchantments on your opponent's turn Pioneer? You can Leyline Binding, I guess. Is that an enchantment? Is that something you consider an enchantment? It's 2 mana, I literally thought it was G. It is 2 mana, yeah. So yeah, as base, 1 toughness, I think not playable in modern, because base 1 toughness, so you already ruled that out, cool. But I think it's at least interesting for Pioneer, so I'm gonna give it 2 out of 5. I think it's like, there's not many, you know, there's not a 2 mana Enchantress in Pioneer 2. 1 mana would be kind of insane and worth playing, or if it wouldn't trigger once each turn, right? But then it puts 2 counters, so it probably wouldn't put 2 counters every time. Yeah, broken at 1 mana, not quite there at 2 mana, feels like. Just kind of a weird card. Elf Artificer. Traditionally, elves hate Artifice, right? In lore. They are all about nature and being hugging trees and all that, but not on Eldraine. I will take a quick bathroom break before we continue the review. I think we're halfway through. But I need to take a quick, as they say, break. So yeah. Interesting. Eldritch Archivist, cool card, but a bit too weak for strong formats. That's why we need standard to exist for cards like this to be bad in standard too, because support for them doesn't exist. Knight of the Sweets Revenge, not Sr. In short, when it enters the battlefield, create a food token. Foods at G. For 7 mana, you sacrifice it, your creatures gain +X, where X is the number of foods, so you just kill them. Well, not really. Overrun with no trample, so it's pretty far away from killing. Could I possibly put it in a food combo deck, Peregrine 2 combo deck, or Asmo deck, or some nonsense like that? Sometimes you play Asmo and you have like 20 foods on the board, and then they add mana, and then you can actually give your creatures +20/+20. So basically Urza, right? Good 2 out of 5 because it's probably pretty weak. But it seems pretty cool in that, like, interesting, let's say, in that use. Urza would get 2 out of 5 nowadays too, yeah. Is this card name a pun? It's a reference to... I don't know, I think it's like a sweet revenge, but it's like sweets revenge. It's also called Knight of the Sweets Revenge, and it's an enchantment and just stays in play, and you just tap your foods for mana for forever. And the revenge only seems to happen when you sacrifice it, so that's weird. Weak design, I think. Not very evocative. Royal Treatment. For green mana, creature gains hexproof and you attach a royal token attached to that creature, which gives +1/+1 and ward 1. Decent protection spell option. We've got so many of those lately, and they're fringe playable to begin with, so this might be preferable if you really like the aura, and having, like, if you're specifically looking for hexproof, not hexproof indestructible like the other ones offer, Tyvart's Stand or Tamiyo's something, works with Archivist Elf, draw 1 also, yeah, that makes sense. Tamiyo's Safekeeping, yeah, exactly, that's what I was thinking of. So in that role, stay your blade, peasants, and he's talking to foxes. Damn. Well, it's just straight up better than Snakeskin Veil, right? Just straight improvement over Snakeskin Veil. Because Snakeskin Veil was +1/+1 counter, and this is Royal Roll, which is better. Foreskin. So funny. Foreskin Veil. Alright, I'll leave it unrated. It's just like slight improvement over an existing fringe card. Tough Cookie. I think Tough Cookie, you know, 2 mana, 2/2 food. ETB, make another food. You know, I'm super excited to take that shitty game objects deck in Modern and remove Lonis from it and just play Abzan. Only 3 colors, not 4. And play Tough Cookie in it as a 2 mana object that's 2 food, so it combines well with Confectioner and with Peregrine Took How many game objects does this make with Manufacture in play? Manufacture says if you would create a clue, food, or treasure token, and so pretty clear that it just triplicates the food token, but tough cookie stays tough cookie. And you can pay 3 mana to attack with your food tokens as 4/4. It's not good. It's not gonna be good, but it's a 2-drop, right? It's a 2-drop. So I'll give it 2 out of 5. Or I would give it like... I should make a... what's the new emote? Canny... But just... Yeah, I should make like a Canny Batches rating, which is what I would give it to it. That would be like a more accurate, so... I love those cards. Up the Beanstalk. Beanstalk. 2 mana Escament. When enters and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, draw a card. Wow. So, to verbalize my thoughts, kind of no cap. In many ways, this feels better to me than the One Ring in 4-color Modern. And yeah, as the flavor text says, it's not so bad. I think it's really funny. It's not so bad. All you have to do is keep from looking down. Troyan to Kellan and Ruby. And let me explain what I mean when I say that it's better than the One Ring. So this is like a card advantage engine for 4-color. Mostly 4-color. Like probably you can use it in some creative ways, but let's just take stock 4-color, right? In Modern. It's just like a 2 mana cantrip, so it smooths your draws early. In a deck where you might struggle to, like, if you don't hit your 3rd or 4th land drop. As Gab noted to me yesterday, it's just like an object you can play that you can bounce with Teferi for a divination effect out of your Teferi, which is nice. Green Tron staple, 4 copies in every deck. Oh, I don't know about that, but like Tron plays... No, it's not good in Tron, but you're certainly looking to play cards that have mana value of 5, but don't actually cost 5. So, Solitude. Wow. Awesome, right? Leyline Binding. Awesome. Fury. Awesome. Draw a card in the Yorkish Bowmaster's economy. Well, if you're drawing cards, you'll draw cards that deal with... If you have Furies in your deck, you'll draw cards that deal with Orcish Bowmasters. Like, whatever. So, I think the combination of being a cheap cantrip and a card that's, like, easy to set up. Let's say you play against Murktide. Or just somebody with counter spells. On the play, you can just play up the Beanstalk on turn 2. and it's just gonna stay there, right? Being an enchantment is pretty hard to remove, like for modern decks. Two mana enchantment is pretty hard to remove for modern decks. And if you're playing against a matchup where your opponent can remove it, like let's say they are a slower prismatic ending deck, then you play it, you cantrip it, so you drew a card and then they exile it. So it's actually okay. Cheap cantrip, bro. It's actually twice the price of normal cantrip. Yeah, well, so this is not really a cantrip slot, it's like a card advantage slot, which I was comparing it to the one ring the entire time in my head. Which you know, as opposed to the One Ring, Up the Beanstalk does help you hit your land drops. So honestly, I really like that card, and I think it's really strong. It's kind of the fact that it draws immediately. Is a lot of stuff. Just the deal breaker, I guess. If it didn't draw, then it wouldn't be greater. All that great. Is it better than Ren? Yeah, quite possibly. I think Ren, like I listened to a podcast from Dom Harvey and Arilax. Then they talked with Tristan Wild LaRue about magic cards, because he's allegedly like builds weird decks or something. I never knew that, but what Tristan said in that podcast was that he thinks Ren 6 sucks. And then he elaborated saying that he doesn't think the card is actually weak, but it's a pretty strong card at making your deck unplayable. Which was a pretty good way to put my feelings about Ren 6 for a long time into words, because it is kind of true that like Ren is a great card, but it's pretty hard to make it actually great in a deck, or have a deck be great with it. And it was kind of funny how we had this like MH1 shift into MH2, where people played like two Rens in blue control, and it made sense. And then just like over the MH2 release, just everybody immediately swapped to playing a full playset, which was kind of out of nowhere. Ren is so important with Bowmaster. Well, no, but that's like a specific card matchup. Doesn't matter. Like, just doesn't matter as much. Just like more of a structural concern about how the deck is built with it. And yeah, I mean, maybe you don't need to play 4 Rens. Like, this Up the Beanstalk is kind of like fits the same spot in the curve conveniently. Because one of the upside of Ren was that like it fits, like it has its spot on the curve early. But maybe you don't need to play 4. Can you name your concerns? Not sure, I'm following. Well, the thing with Ren is that if you have like 24 lands and 4 Ren, just drawing multiple Ren sacks, playing like you're in a weird spot where Ren is effectively a land, but you also cannot play that many fewer lands because it's not reliable enough, and there's high chance of Ren, just high variance with how powerful Ren is if you're land. If your hand was short on lands, it's great. If it was already land heavy, it's almost a blank. Just that. Yeah, also Up the Beanstalk is actually a good top deck. So you can also use Up the Beanstalk with like Yorion, Enigmatic Fires. Sounds decent too. With Yorion, Up the Beanstalk alone draws 2, and you can, it's a cycling enchantment where you have Leyline Binding in your deck. And all that stuff. So, well, let's give Up the Beanstalk 5 out of 5. I think it's really strong. Else, I'm overrating it a little bit, but I think it's actually just being 2 mana, sit and play card advantage engine is just so good. And it being a 2 mana work immediately is so good. So next card. Next card we have is Mosswood Dread Knight. 2 mana 3/2, adventure. 2 mana you draw a card and you lose 1. Then it's trample. When it dies, you may cast it from your graveyard as an adventure until the end of your next turn. Wow. It's probably a standard card from the looks of it. Seems like a very good 2-drop for standard. It's pretty hard to imagine playing it in like a different format. So yeah, I think we're gonna say it's just a standard card. Anybody wants to add anything to Mosswood Dread Knight? Pojebany ziomuś muchowy? No to jest dobrze powiedziane. Could try a Golari mid deck and Pioneer. And standard if it is dice on turn 2, it's awful to cast the adventure on turn 3. Have you never ground before? Sure, like what if you spend early turns curving out and then you start top decking and then you go, alright, cycle, play a 3/2, and then if they kill it, you replay it. You don't have to click buttons. Sometimes the buttons are there and being able to press them is nice, but you can actually move away from the button and press a different button if you will deem other button to be preferable. How often will this die? Yes. Yeah, but then it was an underdog. Let me think through that. Well, this one has trample, but we can ignore it. It seems pretty medium. No, it's not. You can block with the Dread Knight. It's costs you less life and you can block. It's like much. It just stays in play. It's not really worse than underdog. It's actually better than underdog, I think. You can use it defensively more easily, and you can, imagine like having to attack through it. It has trample, so it kind of tricks you into thinking about attacking with it, but it seems really good at blocking. And just attack me, bro. Torch the tower. Sure. You also, you also can draw and then play it, so even if it gets torched, you get value. I'll give it 4 out of 5, and I'll say it's just a standard card. Standard card, irrelevant for modern, barely relevant for Pioneer. Bloodtide Harvester is like is an all-star in Pioneer, but I don't know if that means that Mosswood Dread Knight will be too. Questing Druid. I don't see Harvester so ahead of the card. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Harvester does more. Well, does it? The best thing that Harvester does is attacking for free. Like, that's when it's the strongest. And then Fable Copying is kinda like the second thing, I guess. And then it also, well, yeah. So a Questing Druid is a Curion Dryad, but also a Fiery Impulse. Rend Resolve, rather. Except that Rend's Resolve is until your next end step. And this is until your next end step. Well, so Rend's Resolve is until your next end step. How is it worded? Until the end of your next turn. Okay, until the end of your next turn versus until your next end step. So yeah, it is an instant, so you just cast it on your opponent's turn, so it ends up being the same, just slightly worse. Because you, can't cast the sorcery speed cards immediately. So, overall, it is slightly worse Rend's Resolve effect. Kind of a random colors on the card, just like the Otter, feels kind of weird jump. Obviously, when I played the Pia Nalar deck yesterday, many asked me about about how if I'm going to splash green in the Pia deck, and the answer is no, I will not be splashing green in Pioneer because unfortunately it is not possible to play free color mana and Pioneer in aggro. That's just not possible to do. So Questing Druid is gonna be okay, pretty strong, but pretty Doomwake did. Yeah, sounds like a Doomwake thing for sure. That fits. So I think the card is gonna be for the most part limited by its colors, but it seems pretty good besides that. Like, there's also an awkwardness where you want to cast the adventure first and then the creature. But if you cast the adventure, then you want to cast the cards you have flipped and not the creature. So it's actually so late until you actually cast the questing druid, right? So what do you give to it? 3 or 4? Let's go 3. Card seems strong, but a little bit weird. I think this card is Basto. I think it's strong, just the colors. Let's say 4. 4 is like accurate. I think just like if the colors suck, then colors suck, and it's not played because of that. Limited by its colors, maybe. Next end step, end of turn. Can you explain the difference? You have a turn until your next end step. So when is your next end step? Well, as soon as an end step happens. So let's say you are in your second main phase. You cast it. You finish your turn. You cannot cast the cards anymore. If you play Rens Resolve, it's until your next turn's end step. Until the end of your next turn, rather. So you may play those cards for 1 turn longer. I think they were afraid of this card being too good. Lol. Lamau. Yeah, maybe. And we're done with green cardos. Likeness, Lauter. Dimir, Fairy Shapeshifter. Flying, draw this card. X becomes a copy of target creature card in your graveyard with mana value X, but has flying. How many canisters did the amulet card get? What's the amulet card? Oh, it's literally Lazav. It's funny. I don't think Beanstalk is the amulet card. It's still just better than Reckless Impulse, even without green. No, it's actually worse than Reckless Impulse. Let's clarify that. It's just worse. Like, casting it as an instant during your opponent's turn is worse than casting this on your turn. You know, you don't get to the first shot at having main phase mana to cast those cards. So it's just a downside too. This is slightly worse than this. Naturalize that you can pact. Yeah, it's 2 out of 5. Why? Alright, let's imagine a simple situation with Rens Resolve. You cast it and you reveal 2 lands. You can play 1 land and then you can play a second land. Let's imagine you flip 2 lands with this. You'll never get to play both. Solved. So yeah, I don't know what to... So yeah, Likeness Looter is actually Lazav. Sometimes people play Lazav. It's actually better than Lazav. Non-legendary and just a looter instead of an idiot that doesn't do anything. Lazav is instant speed, sure. Well, I get a Lazav is a 1-free issue, whatever. I'll just say 2 out of 5 and say they side grade to Lazav. If somebody cares to think about Lazav in their deck, they're gonna figure it out themselves. Rowan Shaun of War. Free mana. Legendary creature, human wizard. She's a wizard, damn. Why is Rowan a wizard? I guess she is. Menace. Tap. Spells you cast this turn that are black and or red cost X less, where X is the amount of life you lost this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. 4/2. Yeah, she did go to Hogwarts, and I guess she was a Spark Mage the entire chat. So, when I asked the chat in my Discord, what cards should I talk about? I got a comment saying Rowan from the user Aria. So realistically, this is not a playable card. But since we got a request, let's talk about it. She came back to Eldraine without learning how to survive Stomp SMH. True. Scam Staple, Fable, etc. Very true, Da Vinci. Combo of the beetle that is sometimes played in Shadow. You mean Hex Parasite? I don't know in what way Rowan combos with Fable. I'd say you play Blood Crypt, Fotsies, tap Rowan. Alright, I'll give it 1 out of 5. It's just so obviously unplayable and constructed to me. I don't get it. I don't get it, but a viewer asked about that card. Clearly not constructed, playable. It's 1 to 5 war canisters. Pay 19 life and cast Fireball? Yeah, simply pay 19 life. Fetch Shock ad nauseam, yeah, cool. Sounds good. Next card. Wait, Rowan reduces colored mana. If a card costs X less, it costs X less. Symbols that are not reduced now. Like that's not even possible to reduce colored symbols in cost in Magic, really, without specifically typing them out. There's like a few cards that say that. It's very rare. It's a very rare ability. Oh, Agatha's Soul Cauldron is the mouthful. So I'm not gonna read it. You're gonna read it. Everyone is gonna read it in home. The thing that I didn't realize at first is that it actually exiles target card from a single graveyard, so you can just graveyard hate your opponent things. So, you know, it's graveyard hate, kinda. Half of an unlicensed heirs. So, you know, it's like possible. And besides that, you could make your creature into a Grizzlebrand. I will be the one to mention Greased combo. Yeah, Greased combo is funny. Because being Planeswalker is actually not connected in the rules with loyalty abilities at all. Like the only quality of being a Planeswalker is that it goes to the graveyard. It has no loyalty counters. So you know you can use Agatha's Soul Cauldron as a graveyard hate card, and then like your put a counter on your Ragavan, and your Ragavan is a Yawgmoth. If you use it as a hate card, I guess. So funny. Your Ragavan just pay 1 life. Sacrifice a creature. I mean, you know, your creature can be a Grizzlebrand. Ragavan is a Wall of Roots. Sure, why not? Ragavan is a Grease too. Certainly, you can assemble nonsense. There's been lengthy discussion in my Discord already about some Pioneer combos with it, which I didn't fully read because at some point Disciple of the Seed was heavily mentioned and discussed as like an enabler for combo lines, and I just could, I don't know. I think that is good in Hardened Scales. Yeah, Hardened Scales uses counters immediately and then has a lot of activated abilities, so you could make it so that all of your cards are Ravagers and Ballistas, and I don't know how you beat Scales then. And all of your creatures are Ravager Ballistas. And what do you do then? I guess they don't have modular, but well, you know, all of the creatures are Ravager Ballistas. Just probably that kills in a second. It's also very nice that this card is not mana gated on the activated ability. It just makes it so much better. It kind of looks like it would be gated. You know, like pay 2 tap, then it would be terrible, but it's just free. So you play it for 2 mana and then it does some funky stuff. Also, you can go like, you know, in Modern, you have Glorious Vengeance. So you have like a Grizzlebrand Reanimator deck. But that deck was always lacking redundancy for Glorious Vengeance, and Agatha's Soul Cauldron it's kinda it, right? You need a creature in play that will inherit the Grizzlebrand abilities too. And probably you're better off reanimating Atraxa than Grizzlebrand nowadays with Vengeance, unfortunately, but it's something. I'll let everyone else figure out how exactly great this is, but I'll give it 4 out of 5. I'm feeling good about Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Maybe it's gonna be like a sideboard card, a hate card, like half an unlicensed heirs with a weird upside. Maybe a Sparring Spike will break it in a few streams. It's pretty cool. Next, Candy Trail. Welcome to the candy trail. Artifact food clue. When candy trail is about to scry. Two tap sacrifice candy trail. You gain 3 life and draw a card. So they're 1 mana objects. As far as 1 mana objects that exist, this is a pretty solid one. Sometimes you just want an artifact in play that sits there and taps for your Moonsnare prototype, I guess, or whatnot, or like, you know, seems much better than Wishing Well, which happened last Eldraine, and like people tended to put into their decks for a long time before realizing it doesn't do anything. I wish it drew a card on any graveyard, not when just activated. It's a food clue, so it has to be. That seems comparable to Misha's research desk too. Not really. I mean, people put it in their deck with Mox and Urza. Yeah. Has there ever been a set with more than 5 out of 5s? No. Not even Eldrainos, probably. Seems comparable to Brainstone. Yeah. Sure. Not even MH. No, I was just harsher on the MH cards because I adjusted my ratings. I'll give Kenny Trail 2 out of 5. Realistically, it's gonna suck a little bit, but I think it's cool. And the note is gonna be better. Preordain. Next card is the Iron Crag. 2 mana, legendary artifact. So it's like King Arthur who pulled a sword out of a stone, but it's just so many swords in a stone. And everyone gets to be King Arthur in Eldraine lore. Very nice that they are giving equal opportunity for everyone on the plane. So a legendary artifact add colorless mana. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may have the Iron Crag become a sword. Has equip free. Equip creature gets +3/+3. Cool. Prompt for Mid Journey was Game of Thrones, thrown but as a stone from King Arthur. Losing all other abilities is a little bit cringe. Well, just lose the ability to tap for colorless. So it's like the only 2 mana rock in Pioneer, is that true? Does that effect exist? I think there wasn't a 2 mana rock when I was searching for a 2 mana rock in Pioneer. There was just Corrupted Gravestone, which wasn't easy to use. Gravestone, enter tapped. And needed cards in your graveyard, yeah. Oops, all spells is not Pioneer legal. Well, it technically is, but not really. So Yeah, it's legendary, so you can't even play realistically more than one Iron Crag in your deck. Alright, 2 out of 5. I think the equipment is trinket text. Very minor. First 2 mana rock and pioneer, but it's both colorless and legendary. Big issues. Turn 3 creativity target maybe. Well, if you put this into your deck, you're gonna creativity into the Iron Crag too, so you're probably going to avoid doing that. It changes its name so you can have a sword and a rock and play. I am aware, but sounds good though. Yeah. Misk and Boo token is legendary. Yes. Sir Ginger, the meal ender. Has some kind of an effect. Doesn't like planeswalkers. It's neat. Not as a card, just kinda. I think I've fallen for like the brand, the company, like making a funny thing, and I'm like, oh, that's cute / funny, and I just wanted to mention that. So I am kind of a victim of what is brainwashing, I think. I've fallen for the meme. Now I feel bad for including this in my review. Let's give it a Keg W. It's, I don't know, seems appropriate. It's funny because Ginger is a streamer too of Magics, so just gonna be funny. That's Sir Ginger. And we're done with Artefactos. She blinded Garruk in the Throne of Eldraine trailer, I know. We're done with Artefactos, and the only cards that left are the Manlands. And I have to say that it took me until this review to notice that they all have the same name: Restless Cottage, Restless Fortress, Restless Spire, and Restless Vinestock. So they just all have the same name. That's crazy. I have to say the manlands are pretty good. The creature parts are pretty good. They're all tap lands. Restless Beebug attacks as a 3/3 but can split the power in a way that gives you a better attack, which is nice. Cheap to activate. Restless Cottage like costs 4 mana to be pretty big, and then it gives you both a food token and exiles a card from the graveyard. That's just a solid effect. The Fortress is probably just worse than Shambling Vent because it's more costly to activate and it doesn't accomplish more. And it's very similar. Restless Spire is very cheap to activate. Which is a nice upside. And Restless Vinestock is pretty big. Attacks as a 5/5 with trample. It can either grow one of your creatures to be a 3/3, or it can make your opponent's creature a smaller blocker, so it's pretty easy to get an attack with it, although it's colonnade level of investment to attack with the Vinestock. The thing is that outside of standard, tapped manlands probably are not really cutting it ever since we got the extremely powerful cycle of AFR Manlands. Den of the Bugbear, Hive of the Eye Tyrant, just those lands being untapped is so good, right? Those lands being untapped a good portion of the time early in the game, like where you can least afford tap lands, right? It's just so strong and it's so hard to compete with that. So even in Pioneer, it's gonna be a bit tough to play tapped creature lands like this, the Restless lands. But maybe I can see the Restless Spire being like a blue-red dual land and being cheap to activate. Maybe in Creativity, maybe in Phoenix, probably not. Fires of Invention, yeah, possibly. The Cottage seems like a fairly powerful raid for activation, so I like that. I mean, if this has the untap early effect, it's also a dual land, so it's just kind of probably too much because it's also fixing. But it's pretty hard to strike a balance. So I'll give them collectively 3 out of 5 for being solid man lands with solid effects, but being tap lands is it's just so rough for everyone. So that thing doesn't have reach, huh? Yeah, it doesn't. It has trample. So here we are back at Moonshaker Cavalry. Which means that we have looked through all the relevant Eldrainos cards. I have rated Sleight of Hand as 4 out of 5, Torso Tower as 4 out of 5, Not Dead After All as 5, The End as 4 out of 5 because I like it. Besiege sucks, I don't like it. Agatha's Soul Cauldron got a 4, I like it. Up the Beanstalk 5. Mosswood Dread Knight and Questing Druid got 4 out of 5, but that's mostly for standard. So that was my evaluation of the Eldraine set. It's pretty interesting. No Bunicorn. Regal Bunicorn. Rabbit Unicorn. Power and toughness are each equal to the number of non-land permanents you control. This is downright insane. 5 out of 5. So good. It's actually not too bad, like no cap, it's not too bad. You can probably make it reasonably big. In Convoke. Typically, creatures that just trade for removal were not great in Convoke, but yeah, it's also like one creature for one. 2 mana. It's typically really bad, this type of an effect, but it could be big. Probably Inspector into this, make it a 3/3, and then maybe like play 2 more cards. Then it's like a 5/5 attacking on turn 3. Yeah. Okay, okay. Swole, buddy. Turn 1 Spectre, turn 2 Bonnie, turn 3 Adeline. That's so much power. It's entirely peaceful as long as you don't try to pet it, pen it, take its food, take its hide, sit on its grass, or dress it up in colorful garb for human holidays, said Sturvin Boundary Lens Ranger. Based. Actually, not based. So yeah, this is my review of the set. If I missed any cards, too bad. I will not talk about them today. Excited to not go to the pre-release, but then see the set in action in a few weeks. Because I'm actually not gonna be streaming for the entirety of the upcoming week. I'm leaving on Monday and returning later this week. Going to Montañas for a bit of a hiking trip. But before we finish the stream for today, let's go and do the last important aspect of it, which is Enchant Wordle. And let's say Fable of the Mirror Breaker. We hit, it's a 3 mana uncommon or common enchantment that is not red and it is not a saga. Ghostly is a good one. It has a subtype, so it's probably an aura, uncommon. It's from the year, maybe it's no, maybe it's Shrine, no, because they're legendary. We know it's from 2004. Was Ares, no, Ares was like, so we know it's Darksteel or Fifth Dawn. Well, we know it's not white, so it's not Arrest. Arrest is from Mirrodin. From Mirrodin too, I guess. Unfortunately, it doesn't restrain the beast's smell, says Glissa Sunseeker. Damn. Enchant creature. So you need a 3 mana aura, uncommon, from one of those sets. Fifth Dawn or Darksteel. I don't know enchantment auras from those sets. That's rough. This is also wrong Mirrodin. Could also be a Shrine. No, because it's from a Mirrodin set. Steel and equipment. Alright, let's search for equipment. Equipment. Screams from within, let's go. That sounds good. So it's from 5th Dawn. Blue or green? It is an aura. Enchanted creature gets -1/-1, and when it dies, return screams from your graveyard to play. Damn. So it just kills all the 1/1s, whatever. It kills all the Ragavans, yeah. And you have to return it, so it eventually hits your creatures. Anyone drafted 5th Dawn? Those artworks have a different vibe than the ones from today. It's like all the returns to a set, they don't quite feel the same because they don't really look the same. They look different, like this. Eyes of the Watcher. It's not it. Dawn's Reflection. No, it's 4 mana. Skip the blue aura. Where? Ancient Artifact, Disruption Aura. Unless you pay its mana cost. It's a match. Enchant Artifact. Vedalken weapons sold to outsiders are as dependable as the Veldaken themselves. So not very much? Or is the aura and a Vedalken weapon? I don't get it. Alright, we solved it. Thank you, Twitch chatters, for watching today's set review. It's been a pleasure for you to chat in the Twitch chat. And I hope you're going to stay hydrated and all that jazz. Next stream is gonna happen on Sunday. I'll play the Pioneer Challenge. Maybe I'll play the Vintage Challenge. It's 9 AM, so no promises that it's gonna be streamed. But it might be. In the meantime, have fun. Broccoli beef you made. So the creeping terpid. Are you gonna mix it with the rice, or are you just gonna eats your rice from the blob of rice. Looks tasty. I would eat it. Happily. Oh, let's check MTG Arena VTubers. Seems like a good raid target. See you.